Why is it the man who says nothing is the one she can't forget? Not the guy who begged, not the one who wrote her long messages at 2 a.m., not the one who argued, explained, and tried to convince her of his worth. Those men become background noise, but the one who went quiet, the one who didn't respond, didn't defend, didn't react, that's the one that stays in her head long after the others are gone. Because silence isn't just absence, it's power, it's a mirror. When you go silent, you don't just remove your voice, you remove your validation, you remove your presence, your energy, your emotional availability, and that kind of disappearance, it breaks her frame. See, women are used to men falling apart. When they leave, they're used to being chased. So when you don't chase, you don't cry, you don't do anything. She doesn't know how to process it. It scrambles her logic. It bruises her ego. She'll tell herself, you're just trying to play it cool. She'll wait, watch, expect you to fold eventually. But when the silence stretches into days, weeks, months, that's when the fear creeps in. Not fear of losing you, fear that she already did. And she'll never get a second chance. And the craziest part, you didn't even do it to manipulate her. You just walked away, no announcement, no scene. You detached, stoically, coldly, completely. That's why it hit so deep, because it wasn't a tactic, it was a shift. You stopped trying to be understood. You stopped trying to be chosen. And that's the exact moment she started realizing you were different. Not because of what you said, but because you said nothing at all. If you're done making noise just to be heard and ready to let your absence speak louder than words ever could, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I let silence speak for me. 1. Silence breaks the ego. Number 1. Silence breaks the ego. Her ego expected to win. That's why she left loud. That's why she said what she said. That's why she posted what she posted. She wanted the last word, the final move, the emotional upper hand. Because in her mind, your heartbreak was already scripted. She just had to wait for the reaction she wanted, the angry message, the desperate call, the please just talk to me moment, because that would have confirmed she still mattered, that she still had power. And for most men, that's exactly what she gets. But you didn't give her anything, not a text, not a like, not a single sign of emotional collapse. You went dark, cold, still. And that silence, it shook her, because now she's not just questioning your feelings, she's questioning herself. Silence is a spotlight, and without your attention to distract her, she's left alone in her own mind, replaying the breakup, wondering if she made the right call. Her ego starts folding under the weight of not knowing, and once the questions start, they don't stop. Did I misread him? Was I even important? Did I just walk away from the best thing I'll never get back? You didn't have to humiliate her. You didn't have to argue or justify or perform. You just left space, and in that space, she destroyed herself. Because when someone's used to being the center of your universe, and suddenly they're nothing but silence, it's not peace, it's punishment. You're not ghosting, you're evolving, you're not ignoring her out of spite. You're protecting your energy. That's what she never expected. That's what makes it unforgettable, because silence isn't passive. It's calculated, intentional, devastating, and it always hits harder than words number 2. Predictability kills respect. Predictability kills respect. She knew your next move before you did. That's where the respect started to die, because when a man becomes predictable, always replying, always available, always reacting, he becomes forgettable. You didn't lose her because you lacked value. You lost her because she could read you like a script. No tension, no edge, no challenge. Women aren't wired to crave comfort 24/7. They crave stimulation, mystery, uncertainty. When she knows you'll text the moment she pulls away, when she knows you'll call back after every argument, when she knows you'll forgive, explain, or chase, your value drops, not because you're weak, but because you've become expected, and what's expected is never respected. The moment you break that pattern, with silence, everything shifts. She's no longer sure of where she stands. The control she thought she had gone. Now she's the one watching, wondering, waiting, and the unpredictability rewires her interest. You're no longer predictable, you're powerful. She starts checking your page more than you check. Hers starts asking mutual friends about you, not because she misses the old version of you, but because she can't figure out the new one. Predictability is comfort food in relationships, but it's also what kills attraction. And when you decide to stop being the man she expects and become the man she wonders about, everything changes. You shift from being her emotional safety net to becoming psychological challenge. And here's the part she'll never admit. The moment you became unpredictable was the moment she started craving your attention again. 3 mystery fuels obsession. Number 3, mystery fuels obsession. Nothing grabs the human mind harder than a question without an answer. That's why mystery is the most powerful form of attraction, and silence is its sharpest weapon. When she doesn't know where you are, what you're thinking, who you're becoming, you own her thoughts because the brain can't rest until it fills the blanks. And when the man who once overshared suddenly says nothing, that silence becomes a puzzle she can't solve. See, attention is everywhere. Now validation is cheap. Most men overshare online posts, constantly spill their emotions just to feel seen. But mystery is rare, and rare is valuable. When you stop showing your cards, when you stop explaining every move, she's forced to start guessing. And that guesswork, that's where the obsession begins. She checks your stories, sees nothing, scrolls your posts, still nothing, looks for a sign, anything, and finds silence. That's when her mind starts doing the heavy lifting. She imagines you've moved on. She pictures you with someone new. She replays the best moments over and over in her head because you're no longer feeding her anything new. So the past becomes a loop, and you become larger than life, not because you changed, but because she can't see you anymore. Mystery creates space, and in that space, she fills in the gaps with fantasy, often better than reality ever was. That's what makes silence so lethal. It allows her imagination to build a version of you that's untouchable, and that version, that's the one she'll obsess over long after you've gone quiet. 4. Emotional distance creates psychological weight. Number 4. Emotional distance creates psychological weight. When you were close, she could manage you, predict you, soften you. You were within reach, emotionally available, always ready to talk to, argue, to explain. She knew exactly where you stood, and that made her feel secure, even if she didn't respect it. But the moment you created distance, emotional and physical, everything got heavier. You got heavier. Emotional distance isn't the same as being cold. It's the quiet, pulling back of your energy. You stop explaining your feelings. You stop reacting to hers. You stop showing up in the ways she used to take for granted. That gap, that absence, it builds weight, psychological pressure, because when someone goes silent, when someone you thought you had wrapped around your finger stops orbiting you, your mind starts racing. And racing minds spiral fast. She'll pretend she doesn't care, post like nothing's changed, but inside that distance you've created starts pressing on her hard, because emotional distance removes the one thing every ego feeds on: reassurance. You're not giving her closure, you're not giving her chaos, you're giving her nothing, and that nothing turns into everything. It becomes a presence in her life, a heavy, unexplained absence that sits with her long after the conversations stop. And the wild part, you didn't have to say a single word. You just pulled back quietly, fully, not as a tactic, but as a choice, a declaration that your peace now costs too much for anyone to casually interrupt. She may not say it, but she feels it. And what someone feels without words, that sticks, that lingers. That 5. Detachment is dominance haunts. Number 5. Detachment is dominance. You don't need to raise your voice to assert control. You don't need to argue to prove your point. The most powerful move you can make, the one that shifts the entire dynamic, is detachment. The moment you stop needing her, stop reacting to her, stop placing your worth in how she responds, that's when you become untouchable. See, most men are emotionally enslaved by connection. They confuse love with attachment, attention with value, validation with truth. But detachment, that's clarity. That's where your dominance begins. Not because you control her, but because you finally control yourself. You're no longer affected by her silence, her games, her just checking in messages. She can do what she wants, and it doesn't move you. That's terrifying for her, because she knows once a man detaches, he becomes dangerous. You don't respond with coldness, you respond with calm. You don't block her, you let her see you win, in real time without saying a word. Detachment isn't bitterness, it's discipline, it's walking away from what once held your emotions hostage and choosing you instead. And here's the part most men never realize. Detachment doesn't just shift the power, it makes you magnetic. She senses the difference, your energy changes, you're no longer seeking anything from her. And that absence of need, that's dominance in its purest form, she'll try to test it, see if she can still pull a reaction out of you. But when there's nothing left for her to grab onto, no buttons to push, no feelings to manipulate, that's when she truly feels your power. Not because you fought harder, but because you walked away and never looked back. Number 6. The mind rewrites the past. The mind rewrites the past. Time doesn't just heal, it reconstructs. And when you're silent, when you stay gone, when you stop feeding her anything new to react to, her mind starts doing what every human brain is wired to do, rewrite the story. And the longer you stay silent, the more power that rewrite holds. The past starts to shift. The bad moments get softer, the good ones get amplified, and suddenly you're not the villain anymore, you're the one that got away. See, most people try to force closure, try to fix the narrative, explain their side, but that only cements the version of you she walked away from when you say nothing. When you vanish with dignity and strength, her memory has nothing to attach anger to, no words to twist, no meltdown to point at, just silence. And that silence becomes the canvas she starts painting on. And what does the mind crave when it's left with a blank space, meaning romance, fantasy? She starts remembering the way you looked at her, the way you made her feel, without trying, the energy you carried that no one else brings. And over time, her version of you becomes idealized, not because you manipulated her, because you disappeared, and that disappearance left a vacuum, and that vacuum gets filled with emotion. It won't happen overnight. It might take weeks, months, but eventually your silence will shape her memory more than your words ever could. And what stays in her mind won't be your last conversation. It'll be the man. She wonders about the one she never got closure from, the one she can't stop comparing every other man. 7. Stillness signals evolution. To number 7, stillness signals evolution. Stillness isn't weakness, it's a warning. It says, I'm not where I was, and you don't get to see where I'm going. When you stop explaining, stop defending, stop trying to be understood, something in your energy shifts. You're no longer in the emotional arena, throwing punches. You've stepped outside of the chaos. And when a man becomes still, the world around him starts paying attention to her. Your stillness feels like distance, but it's deeper than that. It's evolution. You're no longer reacting to her moves. You're focused, sharpening your edge in silence, upgrading without posting every win. She doesn't see the workouts. She doesn't see the late nights. She doesn't see the grind, but she feels the change, and that feeling, that uncertainty, that's what makes her spiral. Because women know when a man is still but not stuck. He's building something serious, something dangerous. She expected chaos. She expected emotion. What she got was calm, and that calmness signals strength. She no longer has access to the man who can be still without becoming stagnant, is the one who's truly in control. You're not waiting, you're not chasing, you're transforming. And when the time comes to step back into the spotlight, you won't have to announce it. Your presence will say everything. Let her wonder, let her speculate. You're too focused on your next level to explain your silence, because stillness isn't retreat, it's power. Being 8, they test, you don't respond. Refined. Number 8. They test, you don't respond. When the silence gets too loud, she'll test you. It might be subtle, a random, like a vague story post, a message that says, hope you're doing okay. She's not trying to reconnect. She's checking your temperature, seeing if she still has access, if she still owns real estate in your head. Most men take the bait. They jump in, respond, fast, start a new cycle, and just like that, she wins, but not you. You don't respond, not out of ego, not out of spite, but out of clarity. You know what the test is, you know the pattern, you've seen it before. She's not coming back out of love, she's fishing for control, and your reaction, that's the prize. The moment you give it, She resets the frame. She knows you're still emotionally locked in, and her ego exhales. Silence, once again, is your sword. When she tests and gets nothing, not a comment, not even a flicker of response, that's when she starts to feel it. The distance is real, the detachment is real, the control gone, and that's when the fear sets in, because now she realizes you're really gone. You've upgraded from being emotionally reactive to being psychologically unreadable, and nothing is more threatening than a man she can't move anymore. You've passed the final test, not by doing anything, but by doing nothing. That's real power, because every test you ignore sends a message: you don't control this anymore. Big 9. The return is never the same, dude. Number 9, the return is never the same. Eventually, she comes back. Maybe it's weeks, maybe months, but it happens, a comment, a message, a random photo, memory sent, just because she'll frame it like it's harmless, like she just wants to see how you're doing. But deep down, she's hoping the old version of you still exists, the one that would light up at her name, the one who would drop everything to give her attention again. But this time, she doesn't recognize what she's walking into. You're not the same. The man she left was emotionally available, wide open, easy to reach. Now you're colder, sharper focused. You're not angry. You're indifferent. And that indifference is louder than any revenge could ever be. She'll notice it in your tone, in your eyes, in how you no longer react the way you used to. The energy is gone, the urgency, the spark. She'll feel the wall, even if you're polite. Because what she's running into isn't resentment, it's evolution. She's not coming back to the same man. She's coming back to a stranger with boundaries. And here's the painful truth for her. Whatever she missed, whatever she wanted to reclaim, it's no longer on the table. You've moved on, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You're not who you were, and she no longer fits in the new blueprint of your life. You didn't wait, you grew, and she's not returning to something familiar. She's standing in front of something 10. She'll never forget your silence. Unreachable. Number 10, she'll never forget your silence. Words fade, memories blur. But silence leaves a scar long after the arguments are forgotten, long after she forgets what you said or did. She'll remember one thing clearly. You said nothing when she expected chaos and got calm when she thought you'd beg, and instead you vanished. That silence lives in her head, Rentré, not because it was loud, but because it was final. There's no closure in silence, no validation, no comfort, just space she can't fill. Space that echoes, and every time she thinks of you, it's not your last words that haunt her. It's the fact that you walked away with your dignity and never turned back. That's what sticks. That's what keeps her checking your page at 2 a.m., asking mutuals about you, wondering if she made the biggest mistake of her life. Because silence doesn't just end conversations, it leaves questions, and humans hate unanswered questions. Why didn't he chase me? Did I mean anything? What is he doing now? You've become a ghost with gravity, not loud, not bitter, just gone. And that kind of presence, even in absence, is unforgettable. She may date other people, laugh with someone else, pretend it doesn't matter. But deep down, she knows she'll never meet another version of you. She'll never unsee the man who walked away on his own terms and never looked back. You didn't need to scream. You didn't need to beg. You didn't need to prove your worth to anyone who couldn't see it. All you did was go silent. You pulled back your energy. You took your power with you. And in that absence, she felt everything, the strength, the control, the man she never truly understood until he was gone. This isn't about bitterness. It's not about games. It's about becoming a man who knows his value so well he no longer needs to speak it. You didn't disappear to make her miss you. You disappeared to find yourself. And in doing that, you became the one she'll never stop thinking about. Let them wonder, let them remember. But don't look back. Thanks for watching. Where stillness becomes power and silence becomes legacy. Stay sharp, stay grounded.